left early July, and man, it was hot. I'm sure it's just as big of a challenge doing it in the winter with the cold and the rain and everything, but I mean, we had days that were well over 100 degrees. So hopefully this will give you a little bit better idea if you're going around the same time as me, or you know, in the warmer season. Let's start with the bag though. I love Osprey. They make such a great product that I knew I would go with an Osprey bag. I was going to be gone for 2 full months in Spain. The Camino's only part of the trip I did, so I had to think about that as well. I ended up going with the 36-liter Osprey Manta. This bad guy right here. And really it worked out great. The suspension system for the bag is amazing. I couldn't say more about it. It was so comfortable. My bag was the least of my worries. I weighed around with water right around 20 pounds. My walk around weight, I think when I left for the Camino, was right under 200 pounds. So it was probably a good ratio. I could have definitely cut back on weight, but I had a lot of camera gear with me that was unnecessary for the average person. The reasons I picked the Manta was because it came with a water bladder in it, which that water bladder saved my butt. Water right here on my shoulder where I can just put it in my mouth and drink it made a world of difference. The only thing I might change about if I did it again, I might go slightly larger on the bag. If I was still taking all my camera stuff and was going to be gone for 2 months, and I probably would have gone with a top loading where the Manta is actually separate compartments. So the next thing you got to think about is your shoes. I'd set out a plan before we left on how many miles I was going to do a day, which we were aiming for 20. And that's, we did. We ended up averaging 19.6, and I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to do that in 100-degree weather with big old boots on in the middle of summer. So I ended up going with a trail runner. Next decision, once you decide boot or shoe, is waterproof or not. And the shoe I was going with had that choice. You could either get it in a waterproof version or not. I am going with the non-waterproof one because you need every bit of like breathability for your foot as possible. I would recommend, you know, off the top of my head, go a size or 2 bigger. You won't believe how much your feet swell. A shoe that seemed to fit you perfectly before you left doesn't come anywhere close to even letting you get your foot in it anymore because they're so swollen. You got to figure flip-flops. A lot of people take Keens. Them on, I didn't like them. Not really my style of shoe when it comes to hiking. I heard nothing but good things from a lot of people that were wearing them. I ended up actually just going with a pair of Reef flip-flops that I already had because I didn't want to spend money. And then they would also be good for the shower. Because you definitely don't want to go in any of the showers without some flip-flops on. Some of them can be on the gross side. A lot of them are nice, some of them are disgusting. But that's one of the calls, that's something you have to go do. And the next thing everybody thinks about is clothing, of course. It's a good balancing act on, you know, bringing enough to where you're not having to do laundry every single night. Also, not overpacking and bringing a bunch of extra stuff. Me personally, I brought 2 t-shirts, 1 collared, the one I'm actually wearing right now. Figure shorts, pants, all that kind of stuff. And I really battled with this when I was packing because I just didn't see myself wearing pants. But I knew I should take some, so I took the lightest weight pants I could find. I ended up going with some Piranhas, super fast dry, stretchy, so they're great hiking pants. I never ended up wearing them. I was right. It was always so warm that pants just were out of the question for me. I wore my tank tops almost the whole time. When you're picking your clothes, you just really need to think about moisture wicking, and then, you know, buy something that's quality. Don't buy something cheap because it's your only shirt. You don't want to have to buy stuff over there. The prices are kind of ridiculous for hiking stuff. And when it comes to underwear, honestly, I feel like socks and underwear, especially for a guy, probably the most important thing you can pick. I personally went with a company that I trust, and I've worn their underwear forever, called SAXX. They're amazing. They stop all the chafing and rubbing that happens when you walk that many miles a day in that kind of heat. I went with the more expensive ones. I bought Mwrino wool ones. They are worth every penny. They never once smelt funky. They dried within hours. I couldn't say anything better about them. And then for socks, I ended up going with Darn Tough wool socks. Once again, 100% merino wool. They're a little bit thicker, which was nice. They gave you a little bit more cushion. They still breathe fine, and same thing, it's merino wool, so it'll never stink on you. It dries really fast. I saw so many people having chafing issues and socks wearing out on them and all these problems, and I didn't have any of them. Might have been the only problems I didn't have physically. But if there's a place you spend a couple extra bucks, make it be in comfortable underwear and really good socks. I took 3 of each, which was probably perfect. You could probably get away with 2 jackets. I took 2 jackets. I took a Columbia fleece pullover that I wore in the morning that was phenomenal. It's so warm. I only had to wear it usually for an hour or so. That worked out great for me. And then I took a extremely lightweight, thin backpacking jacket. This guy right here. I know it looks like a tarp. I believe it's Mountain Hardware. And it scrunches up into a absolute itty bitty ball. And it literally just lived in the side of my backpack the whole time. There was a storm that rolled through in the middle of one of the days and absolutely dumped on us. All of Osprey's bags come with a rain cover, so my bag was fine. I just pulled that out, threw it on over the top of me real quick. We were good to go. Rain only lasted a couple minutes, then it went right back to being blistering hot. One of our last days kind of just sprinkled all day while we were walking. Still was pretty warm, just a light drizzle. And I wore that jacket and kept me dry. If anything, I was still a little too warm even though it was super thin. Sleeping stuff. You see a lot of people with sleeping bags and blankets and pillows, and they have to take a much larger bag because of this. And I didn't want to have to deal with that. And so, I'm always warm, which is a good thing for me, I guess. I don't really ever get cold at night, and I figured if I did get cold at night, I had some warm clothing that I could put on. So I decided to go with something as light as possible. I went with just a sleeping bag liner. I went with a brand that I trust a bunch, Summit. And this is actually my entire sleeping system. It's itty bitty. It's the same color green that's in this, which is also supposed to help repel bugs. It was great. I honestly can't think of a night where I really needed it for warmth, but I did need it for flies. There's tons of times on the Camino where the flies are really, really bad, and you're trying to sleep and they just keep landing on you. And at least with this, I was able to get in it, not be too hot, and stop the flies from landing on me. On the other hand, you could probably get away with not bringing any form of a sleeping bag. I think everywhere we stayed, but maybe 2 or 3 places, had blankets, had pillows for you. They give you these like throwaway sheets that you put on everything. It was fine. I really only had to pull this out a handful of times. And pillow wise, I did take a backpacking pillow that I already had, which is also Summit, and it's this little guy right here, and it actually blows up to be quite large and is really comfortable. It's what I use all year round for backpacking. Once again, I only used it a couple times. It wasn't necessary. I probably easily could have just rolled up a shirt and used that and been fine. So a nice luxury item to have with me, because there was times where I used it because the pillows sucked that they gave us. Toiletries. I brought a couple different things. I did bring a small thing of baby wipes with me because, you never know. And baby wipes are always a great thing to have when you need them. Toothbrush, toothpaste, of course. Kept just buying small tubes of toothpaste along the way, because there's always toothpaste at stores. Any of your toiletry stuff, you don't really have to worry about having enough with you for the whole trip. You can easily get away with just a week or so's worth, because you'll always walk through a town that has a store. The one thing I will say that I didn't bring that I wish I would have was sunscreen. Sunscreen's really expensive over there, and we actually couldn't find it for over the first week. We stumbled into one pharmacia that had it, and they wanted to charge us $35 for a tiny tube of sunscreen. Shower towel is important. When I first started, I had a cheap microfiber backpacking towel that I had gotten on sale at some place, and I used that for the first like 3/4 of the trip, and then one night I left it on the line and didn't have a towel the next day, so I ended up having to stop in this store and buy one that was on the expensive side, but man, it was so nice, and I'm really glad I actually did buy it, because it made drying off so much easier. And it's just the last thing you want, little things that you would bring, tech stuff, things like that. And I brought quite a bit of that stuff. So I brought my GoPro and a bunch of GoPro accessories, which I used a lot. Those aren't things that most people need. It just kind of depends on, you know, how you feel like documenting your trip, or if you want to document it. Lock. The Camino might be the safest place I've ever been. The thought of somebody stealing from you is crazy. I didn't hear of anybody getting anything stolen. It would really surprise me if something like that happened. People are just so loving, and everybody just wants to take care of each other, that it would be surprising. But on the other hand, I was traveling to a bunch of other places, so I did have a lock. I just used a small little tiny cable lock that was able to fit through all the different zippers on my bag. It worked fine. I would always suggest having a lock with you for traveling. The most important thing that you absolutely can't forget is earplugs. I bought a box of nice, good earplugs designed for sleeping, which actually makes a big difference. And I brought the whole box with me, so that way I could give them to people, or if I lost them in the middle of the night, it wasn't a big deal. Like when you're sleeping in a room with 30, 40 other people, if you don't have earplugs, you're never gonna sleep. There's always gonna be a hand of people snoring, people getting up in the middle of the night, people leaving super early, which was usually us. We got out and left at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning most of the time, just to try and beat the heat. So without those earplugs, it's punishment. I also brought a small power pack, because I didn't know what the charging situation was going to be like over there. I didn't know when I was going to be able to charge my phone or my camera, those things. I just didn't want to have to worry about it. So I did bring a power pack that was big enough to charge my phone 4 or 5 times. And most of the time you have good access to power, it's not a big deal. On the other side of it though, sometimes you're staying at a place and there's only one outlet and everybody's trying to plug their stuff into it, and it's nowhere close to your bed. And so having the power pack was nice, because I could just charge my phone right there in my bunk, or if it was dying in the middle of the day from listening to music or anything like that, I could just plug it in, and I always had power and I didn't have to worry about it. And multiple times I loaned it out to people so they could charge their phone. It was worth bringing it, and the extra weight. We'll buy the guidebook. I think it's a waste of weight to carry with you, and I also don't think it's very good. They come out with a new one every year, but it still isn't really that up to date. There's an app you can get out of the App Store. I think it was 99 cents. It's amazing. It gives you your elevation. It gives you your distance from town to town without having to calculate it. It tells you exactly what kind of services are in each town, because some towns you might plan on staying there, but if you have the guidebook, you don't know that town doesn't have a grocery store. It doesn't have, very many places to stay, and that it's probably worth it to walk the extra couple miles. The option in some cases to book ahead of schedule, so you don't have to worry about a bed. It also tells you like what kind of rooms they have, and what the price of a private room is there, because there's going to be nights where you don't want to sleep with 30 other people and you want to spend a couple extra bucks to get a private room. People threw away their guidebooks and downloaded the app after finding it. Hopefully you found this video useful and it'll help you pack for your Camino de Santiago. If so, make sure you smash that like button, so that way other people can get the same information you got. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit the subscribe, because we got a whole lot more videos coming. We got some special guests coming on and some real in-depth stuff that we didn't have time to get into in today's video. If you got any suggestions or things you'd like to know about, leave them in the comments below, and I'll either make a video to address it or try and answer your question directly. May your journeys be grand, and buen camino.